Dear Venerables, dear Venerable Sisters, Dhamma friends, today we are going to start the second session of our meditation retreat, specifically in the English medium. We have completed the first session today morning, and as a starting, I thought I have three responsibilities or three items to be completed. The one thing is that administering of precepts. The second thing is to give the timetable and the procedure. And the third one is to give the instructions regarding meditation. So as far as these three things are concerned, being it is evening, tomorrow morning will be the time for the administering of precepts. We take the general rule, administering of the 8 precepts. So tomorrow, after the first sitting, at 6 o'clock, the administering of precepts happen, and then go for the breakfast. The second part, as far as the timetable is concerned, I think almost everyone by now knows the timetable here. So if there are any kind of a necessity, Ramani and other organizers can help you, so I leave it to the organizers. The third aspect is the one I would like to take time, that is to say, give instructions regarding the meditation. So before get into that, I would like to know among you, how many are there expecting the basic instruction. That means they are new to this kind of retreats and they are the beginners. They need the basic instructions. So I would like to know how many of you need that kind of basics. Can you please raise the hands, those who are newcomers for the meditation? Yeah. So that means almost everyone have the basic idea whenever we are going to have this kind of a good atmosphere and meditators and a nice place to sit, what to do in sitting. But anyway, as a formality, I will take time to give instruction for a beginner as well as some kind of a reminding for the senior meditators. I would like to declare this is a kind of a retreat. We are going to establish mindfulness. In Pali, we call Satipatthana. So our main aim, the main theme is the mindfulness. Or during this time period, what we are going to do is, the one thing is understanding, the defining, the term meaning of the mindfulness, and try to get some deductive knowledges, rational knowledge about the mindfulness and put into practice. While putting into practice, we try to establish that very mindfulness that we have learned from the book knowledge or we deduce by our rational knowledge. So then the question happens, why we should have so much of a specific atmosphere, specific climate or specific arrangements for the mindfulness to install as well as to establish. That is simply, we are so unmindful in our day-to-day activities, so therefore if we wish to take a real trend or break, we have to give a completely new atmosphere so that we can have a fresh start. And otherwise, we can approach the same issue through another synonym for the mindfulness. According to the canon, specifically in the Theravada tradition, the mindfulness is, the term mindfulness has the synonym of diligence. In mindfulness, as far as the Pali is concerned, it is called sati. The diligence is being given as appamada. More than the mindfulness, the diligence is easy for one to understand or grasp, because it has come to a certain into our vocabulary or day-to-day uses, than the mindfulness. And the mindfulness is fairly a technical term. So diligence is we are often using than this technical term. And specifically, the opposite of diligence is negligence. That negligence is very common in our day-to-day activities. The negligence in Pali called pamada. Diligence is known as appamada. So we are, from the day-to-day life, now we are going to take this monastic disciplinary code as well as the meditation. So therefore we have to understand diligence with respect to the negligence. So diligence in the religious point of view, or from the meditative point of view, it says that you must be diligent to do what you should do, as well as not to do what you should not do. So diligence as a common term, we have been recognized and practiced specifically towards our diligence towards do's, what we should do. We must be diligent, otherwise we can't live this kind of a life. We would have been quite a deprived situation. So we each of us come up to a certain level because of our diligence, but I would like to rather recognize that diligence is basically on doing what we should do. But our basic thing now we are going to emphasize is not to do what we should not do. So that then naturally it becomes religious, spiritual and meditative. So therefore a lot of disciplinary codes as well as the points that we have to keep it in our mind in order to facilitate this diligence and facilitate the mindfulness. So understanding this kind of a general introduction, and if you go back to the canon and as well as the history of 2,600 years, in order to understand as well as to establish this mindfulness, there are three methods you find in the canon. One thing, and the one is called intensive method of establishment of the mindfulness. The second one is semi-intensive method. The last one is the extensive method. Whenever the mindfulness or the diligence is being introduced, it is naturally easy to introduce in terms of this intensive method. Intensive method means that you have to have a microclimate and the macroclimate specific. Just like operation theatre in the health line or in the intensive care unit. Many variables are controllable. That means a micro and macro climate, and then you are going to give a intensive dose of mindfulness, so we can have the depth regarding the mindfulness. When compared to that, the semi-intensive method is giving kind of a width rather than the depth, and that will be further going to more wider way towards the extensive method. And whenever the Buddha introducing this intensive method, he defined the macroclimate as aranyagatowa, rukkhamulagatowa, sunyagara-gatowa. That means you have to go to a forest or under a tree and select a solitude place. So the specific place that we are sitting, in the modern terms we call meditation hall. The meditation hall is the one we can understand as the place suitable, the solitude place suitable for meditation. The solitude means here each and every one of us get together here to establish mindfulness, but not to indulge any sensuous pleasure or our sensuous organs. So in that sense, this meditation all is free from the people, those who are seeking sensuous pleasure. So that is therefore it is known as solitude place. With that respect, I would like to go a little further. We have to understand we are not all fully enlightened beings. Though we are set this as our final aim, we all have different defilements and the sensuous pleasure kind of thing. So this has been recognized as the solitude place. Each one has to respect others' solitude, silence, health, and all the kind of thing. So therefore, even though this house appear like fully crowded, we must respect each other's silence. We must keep the distance with others so that we can maintain our respect to each other and health situation also. So therefore, once we go into such a forest or under a tree or into a solitude place, the maintenance of very silence, the maintenance of very hygienic situation, and the maintenance of respect each other is no second party involved. We very people are responsible. So right from the beginning, I ask with full compassion, please maintain silence. If anyone has any kind of inquiry, that is why, in order to reduce that kind of inquiries, I am now delivering the basic instructions. So no one should take that role. Don't try to advise others. If someone come with respect to the meditation aspect, either direct he or she to the question and answer session or to private interviews kind of thing. Don't try to tackle directly. If it is administrative kind of a question or situation, the Ramani, he has taken enough pain to fix everything. So if you have any kind of minor issues, you can go there. I hope Venerable Bhaddekaratta also will be helpful. So don't try to do in between things, so that we can clear the situation very clearly regarding these things propping up on halfway on the way. So therefore this macroclimate that we have gained after spending so much of time, the money and all the kind of thing, we must be respectful throughout. And that is as far as the macroclimate is concerned. So while in the talks and in the discussion, I will take the responsibility to remind you whenever you become slack. And the second is the microclimate. That is to say, the Buddha, in his explanation, he says, a human being has basically 4 cardinal postures. The sitting, standing, walking and lying down. As far as this mindfulness is concerned, or establishment of the diligence is concerned, for the beginner, or specifically to the intensive method, as far as the intensive method is concerned, the sitting posture is the what recommended. So therefore we call this sitting meditation. And we sit together, we call group sitting. So there, one has to make the body in such a way so that it will be most conducive, most facilitating towards the mindfulness, and not to make unwanted pains or unwanted regimentation of the body, so that it is rather an art than a science. So therefore, now hoping that we have assumed this sitting posture. I would like to give few advices or details. When you sit, and specifically if you close your eyes and scan through your body, sweep through your body, you must feel symmetrical. And you must feel all the muscles are relaxed. So that is the way we facilitate the meditation. So once you assume your sitting posture, the best is to sit in the full lotus posture. Sometimes in the statues, it shows the full lotus posture or half lotus or quarter. Otherwise, in the traditional Burmese method, they keep the legs in such a way, not crossing each other, but make comfortable and symmetrical. And then relaxing all the other muscles. So whenever you assume that kind of a full lotus posture, half lotus or quarter or Burmese kind of method, there's a full triangle touching the ground, and that is the most established posture. And you keep the hand in such a way, once you relax, it just appears like a pyramid in Cairo, or just like an anthill. You are well established on the ground. So each and every sitting, you have to make these alignments. Those who have the other difficulties due to the age or sicknesses, you may accordingly take a meditative bench or cushions or chair. Once you assume the posture, you have to make sure these two sit symmetrically and relaxed. So once you assume that, as I mentioned, it appears like an anthill. There's a very famous simile. It says one very young, enlightened novice giving an instruction to a very elderly, learned monk. After pleading his support, he says, I am too young to teach you, but I will give you an example. That is to say, if a hunter is chasing behind an iguana or a lizard, and if that one is going to go into the anthill, what is the skillful hunter is doing? And the elderly monk answers, he says, if you wish to catch the iguana, you have to close thoroughly all the hills, all the holes or openings except one, convenient one, and keep that open and start smoking into the anthill. So whenever the smoke is filled, the iguana, the lizard, cannot live, and it is trying to come out, but finding that all the holes are, openings are closed, it has to come out from that very open hole. Therefore, the hunter is an advantageous situation. It can catch it and do as he wish. Likewise, when we are also sitting, assimilating an anthill, we have 6 holes. In the figurative way, the eyes are one opening. The transactions are taking place, we call seeing. And the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. So when all the 6 openings are out, open, and then very difficult to catch the iguana. So therefore, the Buddha, he recommends, under this intensive meditative system, you close eyes, so that temporarily you can do away with this seeing or the transaction of visual objects. And you go to a silent place because you can't close your ears. Some people use earplugs in order to do it, but if we agree upon not to make unwanted noises, we can take into grant that there are no much of a transaction as far as the sound is concerned. And you have to select a place where there is no good or bad smells. And therefore nose is neutral. And as far as the mouth though is concerned, two functions, tasting and talking. And here very specific. 2 eyes to do one single operation of seeing, 2 ears are to do one single operation of hearing, 2 nostrils to do single operation of the smelling, but the mouth has one single opening and 2 operations, tasting and talking. And therefore, that is kind of a tricky place, so you have to keep as much as possible the silence. And when we are taking 8 precepts, our eatings also will be reduced to the morning hours. So therefore, its functions are somewhat reduced, but of course in sitting meditation, no transaction. And the body, you have to keep in such a way, need not any intentional volitional action. You just relax, symmetrically and relaxed way, and fully open your mind and be aware of the body. So that is what the way we get the access into this mindfulness or sati or the diligence. To become very diligent or vigilant or aware of the body. So now, as I mentioned earlier, that we are in such a sitting posture, we can imagine if whenever the mind become focused or mindful or diligent to the sitting posture, that indicates mind is not wandering off to the past and the future. The mind is not wandering towards the other places. And it is not wandering or worrying about what are the other people doing, right round or other places. So you have to bring into the situation here, now I am. The here means the body as the object. Now means the very present moment, not the past, not the future. I, at the beginning, known as that means no other people concerned about one's own situation. So this kind of attention, bringing to the here, now I am, could be interpreted in another way. We bring the mind introvert and not letting it to go extrovert through seeing, through hearing, through smelling, through tasting or other bodily actions. So therefore, the mindfulness there defined in 2 terms. One thing is be here and now is a definition for the mindfulness. Being here and now. Or the second thing is, we can say whenever the mindfulness come into being, the mind becomes introvert and inwardly. So this is a very simple way of understanding, and you must be diligent to keep this as long as possible. Whenever the mind goes to go to the past and the past or the future, or wandering on towards other places or other people, that under this definition it is negligent. It's off the track. So whenever you come to this here, now I am situation, you are the very first person to understand whether the mind is be here and now, or it is wandering, daydreaming, fantasizing and thinking. So just mere by determination or volition, very difficult to keep the mind in here and now situation. And it is not your personal mistake. And it is not a crime also. So therefore, even the Buddha as well as the meditation master, they say, whenever the mind going to focus introvert or to keep within the boundary of one's own body, it is as if like a wild buffalo taken from the wilderness and taken into a village and tied into a strong peg or tree with a durable rope. So it becomes so bewildered. So it tries best to either break the peg or break the rope and to run away back to the wilderness. So therefore, that is the example. So very difficult. So therefore, don't worry thinking that my mind is so much of bewildered and wandering. It is not individual situation. That is what it happens. So therefore, best thing is to be aware that here now I am, and I am relaxed. I am symmetrically sitting. So therefore, you introduce your relaxed nature. So let the mind to be in a relaxed mood. Don't try to do any regimentation. Don't try to have any preconceived ideas. So that is the way we facilitate this very mindfulness and the diligence. And that itself will take, for a beginner, a few sittings to understand and be relaxed in the here and now situation. And that is very, very important. All the day, all throughout your meditative life, you must develop or you must maintain this beginner's mind. Beginner's mind means, mind is very simple. It try to be with here and now, with one's own body. And that's a very good start. So when and where you become successful to understand that mind is within the body and be aware of it, then you will learn the art how to maintain it for a few thought moments, few seconds or few minutes. It is as if I am to give another example, if you are for the first time trying to learn how to ride a push bike. So at the beginning, of course, someone has to come and do kind of mechanical help, to get the balance. And once you get a certain about the speed and the balance, then more and more practice while practicing, you will understand how to maintain the balance and how to maintain the speed. So without keeping the leg on the ground, you will learn to keep the balance for a few steps or few meters or sometimes kilometers. Likewise, that you have to practice daily as a beginner, because there are so much of reasons to be discouraged, but they have been really depicted and clearly indicated. Don't take them as your own personal mistakes or that you are doing your mind is defiled. No, this is the nature of the mind. So when and where you develop this kind of a balance, and here now I am situation, and once the mind relaxed, the Buddha indicate that mostly then the mind is going to see this life continuum. In Sanskrit it's called prana. In Pali it is called anapana, the breathing process. The breathing process is the bare minimum intrinsic characteristic of a living body. So therefore, when and where there are no transactions regarding the seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, bodily movements, volitional, then it is going, only one thing happening is the effortless transaction of in-breath and out-breath happening through the involuntary muscles. So if you can feel that breath, it's a very good natural indicator that mind is happy now at home, and instead it sees its own object to observe. But even then it says, don't go in search of the breath, or otherwise don't go for forced breathing in order to make it prominent. So while you are maintaining the relaxed and the balanced body, if it is going to feel, if you're going to experience, well and good. Otherwise, be with your body. Be here and now. But if you feel the breath, make it sure it's a natural. It's effortless. Don't try to do forced breathing, otherwise you will going to develop headaches and some muscular tensions. So therefore, when and where it happens, just relax it. And if you can manage to be with the breath, from in-breath to out-breath, just count or just be aware how many cycles of breath you can continue to observe diligently and mindfully, considering that is the biggest merit, biggest skillful thing you have ever done in your life. Because all the other skills are extrovert. Instead here, for the first time, we are introducing something internally, intrinsically natural process, and mind is focused. And that means you are now learning the art of establishment of the mindfulness. And there may be a lot of 1001 impediments and difficulties. Never mind. Again, develop the beginner's mind. If it is difficult, come back to the body. And again, naturally, if the breath happens, take it as the object and try to follow in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath. And when that happens, more and more you effort, or in other words, there's only one method, that is to say trial and error. Don't try to be smart. Don't try to accelerate it. Just observe the in-breath and out-breath. More and more you practice, the more and more your time can spend parallel with the in-breath and out-breath. There you may see that in-breath and out-breath is usually happening on the upper part of your body. So therefore the upper part of the body must be erect. If it is bent or if it is not balanced, the breathing process will be abnormal. So you must be fairly concerned your upper part of the body is erect. And meanwhile you can see, if you are sitting comfortably, symmetrically and relaxed way, you can just forget about the lower part of your body and pay the attention to the upper part. And you are observing the natural breathing, and each and every breath is an indicator to see whether mindfulness is established or you are diligent in it. If, as I mentioned, there are distraction from sounds and the pains and the thoughts happens, never mind. When and where it is gone, come back to the breathing and try to maintain it. So that means now you are 2 steps ahead. One thing is bringing the attention to here and now is now established. Now you can keep the attention, or otherwise you simply know that you have to, when and where possible, to come back to the inner the body. And while observing the body, if the naturally breath happens, you try to make it as an object and keep the in-breath and out-breath as a continuum. So when that happens, of course that is enough to a beginner. But some people, those who have the quick wit and the sharp mind, they can develop the sharpness of the mindfulness or the efficiency of the mindfulness by locating the most prominent point where the in-breath and out-breath is touching. There also you have to be very careful not to focus into a point with the premeditative ideas or imposing. Just observe what is the most vantage point and what is the most touching point of the in-breath and out-breath. So some people may see the uppermost part of the respiratory tract, that means the end of the nostrils or top of the upper lip. If that is the case, technically that means Anapanasati Bhavana. That means the mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath. Some people instead may see the lowermost part of the respiratory tract, that is the diaphragm moving according to the in-breath and out-breath. So when the in-breath happens, your abdomen become rising, and the out-breath happens, it is falling. Abdominal movements also a parallel rhythm together with the breath. So that is also been recognized. When that happens, it is called the Burmese system, or sometimes specifically it is Mahasi system. Of course, at the beginning, when the Mahasi Sayadaw is introducing, he used to call this abdominal movement also as Anapanasati Bhavana. And he tried to explain it through the Satipatthana meditation. But some traditional conservative parties challenged him. He told that is not the what Buddha mentioned as Anapanasati. Whenever he mentioned, it says traditionally it is on the tip of the nostrils or top of the upper lip. So there are a lot of argumenting and debating and papers and everything happened. Ultimately, the Mahasi Sayadaw, in a sense, stepped back. He says, yes, whenever the breath is touching on the nostrils, either left or right or on the top of the upper lip, that's we leave it as conservatively and traditionally as Anapanasati. Exactly the same air element, if your touching point is more prominent at the abdominal level, we will say it is at the Burmese method. Otherwise, of course, in the technically or in the absolute terms, there is no difference. It is mere the touching point. And some people find very difficult to get the touch at the nostrils. So some people are bewildered and upset, telling that I am not suitable or I am not capable to do meditation because I can't feel the touch, specifically in one particular place. And for such a people, the alternative is, if they can feel rising and falling in the abdomen, no harm. But if I am to add little more into that, even without feeling, either at the end of the nostrils or at the abdominal level, if you are sure mind is not bewildered in thinking, pains and outside sounds, if you are sure the breathing is happening and you are face to face it, that's well and good. Nothing to worry. You are just be aware of the in-breath and out-breath. But if you have a specific place that is sharpening the mindfulness and consistency is more prominent, so therefore if it is there, it is additional help, it's additional supporting thing, but not having such a touching point is not disqualifying a particular person as far as the mind is following the in-breath and out-breath. And the advantageous point is, by getting the touching point, you can sharpen the mindfulness in this way. Where, if I am to go back to the beginning, if you wish to be mindful on your whole body, here, now, I am, you have to simply understand, you have to forget about the rest of the world. Time and space. You are concerned about within yourself. And whenever you successfully be acquainted with the breath, you will see you are observing only the upper part of the body. If you wish to keep the attention with the upper part of the body, you have to forget about the lower part of the body. Whether you do it or not, it happens. And whenever you can get a touching point, prominent point at the tip of the nose or at the abdominal place, you can just be aware of that place and forget about the whole body. This is what's called the one-pointedness. This is a kind of a terminology used to indicate the concentration. It's a good thing. If you can focus into one point, that's a sharpening of the mindfulness and the one-pointedness. Yet another mental factor, the concentration also appreciated. And if you can have a touch point, easily you will agree, when the in-breath happens, you have to completely forget about the out-breath. You have to observe, experience the in-breath wholeheartedly. And when the out-breath happens, equally, you must be completely forgetting about the in-breath and fully aware of the out-breath. And the object is changing, but the mindfulness is continuing. And the concentration also, towards the concentration also, you do the most conducive thing. So that is how we sharpen the mindfulness that we have grossly understood, and keep on fine-tuning to focus. When the in-breath happens, that has the most important thing. But the negligence of the mind, the unmindful mind, is always try to run up and down, be wandered, and daydreaming, fantasizing happen. So, amidst of all the challenges, the yogi, the practitioner, the meditator, try to see how much in-breath to out-breath, out-breath to in-breath, like the cycles of breaths or seconds or minutes, you can continue. I mean, this is a very sharp, technical kind of thing. So, if you can go up to that level, I think as a beginner, that you will get the full marks. So therefore, more and more you are to sit, you will find the ways and means from the gross level to very subtle, sharp point to go there. And if it is impossible, you will come back to at least be mindful of the sitting posture or just general breathing process. Whatever maybe you have to compromise, but whenever the opportunity is correct, you must know the way of sharpening, and that is how you are going to make use the time in intensive meditation. But specifically for the beginners, when and where he or she is going to sit little more than 20 minutes, the bodily pains, the uncomfortable situation and mental irritations are going to come. So therefore, early, fresh, 10 to 20 minutes, you can do this kind of sharpening, but later these all the other, the pain, the sounds and the wandering thoughts and going to creep in, and therefore you become quite discouraged and you will be discharged like a battery, a run-down battery. So therefore, if you are to do mindfulness only in this intensive method, the third day you are bound to go home. But if you wish to continue, you must know how to do the mindfulness in the semi-intensive method. That is just an alternative for this intensive method, so that if it is not possible or if it is not very gainful, you can easily adopt into this the alternative, that is we call walking meditation. In the walking meditation, your posture is the walking posture, and sometimes it may be stand still. And for the comparatively sitting meditation, you need the area just enough for your sitting clothes to spread. But for the walking meditation, you must have a land area enough for 30 to 40 steps. That means maybe 40 to 50 feet. Or meter-wise, that means 15 or more meters, you have to pace up and down. That land area must be flat and straight. And the best is if you can have a sand bed of a thickness of half an inch, the rough sand. But in Australian situation, it's very difficult to get that. So therefore you have to improvise that kind of thing. And this Jhana Grove has given enough idea. You can see right around this meditation hall, there are walking paths. They are indoor. And there are a lot of corridors and lawns. So you have to make use them for your walking meditation. So in the walking meditation, you do you try to be diligent and be mindful on your walking posture. So therefore this pain problem or any sleepiness will not be much of a distraction. So in order to give little technical information or instructions, I would like to compare this instruction that I have given in the sitting with compare with the walking meditation. At the beginning of the walking meditation, you have to determine this is the area or this is the land I am going to use as the walking path. As I mentioned, it must be enough for average 30 steps. And then you just face it and stand still and try to focus your attention to the standing body. In the sitting posture, it appears like a pyramid or like an anthill. But in the standing posture, you may feel like a peg driven on the ground or a candle standing. So that means now you are arranging your climate, the posture, and therefore you stand still and observe yourself. How you feel comfortable and homely and be with your body. This is very important, just like in the sitting meditation. And then just walk the land area that you have determined for about 5-6 minutes. In a normal speed, do not try to accelerate or walk in slow way. Let the body to decide, the body knowledge to decide what is the walking speed. And walking up and down. And it must be a rather brisk walking in order to have kind of a good circulation of blood and the nervous system to become a little warmed up, mobilizing of kind of energy. And then if you feel comfortable, familiarized, and then again come back into the standing posture. And then in the walking meditation, in the sitting meditation, you pay the attention to the upper part of the body, but in the walking meditation, the opposite. You pay the attention to the lower part of the body, so therefore you have to limit your movements of the hands. So some people binding in front or behind, whatever may be, pay the attention to the lower part of the body. And when you are moving the right leg, try to be aware of that movement. And at least when the foot, the sole, touch on the ground, and you try to feel what kind of a touch. Whether it's a rough or cold, or starting from the heel to the toes, or whatever may be the texture of the land, anything indicates that you are mindfully or diligently be with your step. And once that is established, the left leg in the normal speed, and then try to experience the touch of the ground or the sole of the left leg. And you are moving. There, when compared to the sitting meditation, you are focusing on one single point and see in breath and out breath. Here, when the left leg happens, it's one, and the right leg happens one another. So therefore, two different places, but the mindfulness must be continuous. And when you keep on practicing or stepping or walking, you may you do with open eyes, but it be instructed, don't look at the object directly in front of you, or don't look at your feet. Instead, see somewhere in front of you, ahead of 2 meters, and that means downcasted eye. So that means the signals from the visual objects also now you have to tackle with. And not like in sitting meditation, in the walking, the outside sounds also may come into the scene. So amidst of seeing and hearing, you have to keep the right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg and experience it. The good side of it is, more than the air column touching on your nostrils, the touch of the ground is more gross. So therefore, you are better off. But the visual objects and the sounds come and distract you. So therefore, it's a completely different combination. So therefore, you have to arouse a lot of energy, and therefore, sitting meditation is more conducive for the concentration, and the walking meditation is to arouse more energy. You are recharging the battery, which has been depleted in sitting. So therefore, even though in the explanation I am giving instructions on the sitting first and the walking second, when you observe the timetable, you will see always you have to do the walking first and then sitting. Early morning you get up from the bed, don't go for sitting because it will be more sleepy. So do little bit of, or at least equal amount of walking meditation. As well as after a meal, always you have to do with the walking meditation. And those who have already practiced sitting meditation without walking will see a remarkable difference whenever introduce the walking before sitting. Because it is going to give energy, so that during the walking meditation, no question, no problem basically regarding the back pain and the knee pain or any kind of thing, because it is really alleviating that kind of pains. And in the sitting meditation, there may be some sloth and torpor, slimy mind and sleepiness, but the walking meditation giving the different combination, it is rather opposite of it. So the day you understand the combination between the in-breath and out-breath, sitting and walking, you will see the meditation is not rather a regimentation, but it is like a hobby. That means you are giving the priority for the mindfulness and the priority for walking meditation. So that is different. That is the way we are going to introduce in this retreat. So therefore, make use the time allocated for the walking, and once walking finished, without going into the other aspects or business, if you can directly come and sit, the little bit of mindfulness you develop in the walking, directly you can use to the sitting. And some additional or common sense, if I am to add, if you are an elderly person, don't worry much about sitting, but give the full attention to the walking meditation. You will see the body is becoming more and more the workable, agile, and then your sleeping, the nice sleep and appetite will be little by little improving. And later it can be very directly contributed to the sitting meditation. And if you are recovering from a disease, a serious one, don't worry about much on the walking, sitting meditation. Give a fair enough amount of walking meditation, and will be fast recovery, as well as after a little while the body itself will invite to go and sit. And the weather climate is no good. If the sky is full of clouds, a lot of rheumatic pains bound to come. Under such circumstances, you don't feel comfortable in sitting, but in the walking, fairly you can manage that situation. And if you specifically wish to introduce the meditation to the younger children, younger generation, don't force them to sit. Just ask them to walk. Do walking meditation, and you will see they are very happy more with walking meditation. So these are the specific features in the walking meditation in the long run. And the most important thing is, each and every religious practices, they are talking about the meditation. For them, meditation means sitting. But the Buddha is the only one has given the enough emphasis on the walking meditation. So in a country like Sri Lanka, whenever you are excavating old ruins, if you happen to find a walking path that indicates it's a well-seasoned place by fully enlightened beings, they have given so much of attention to put up the conventional walking paths, either in the indoor and outdoor. And therefore, wherever, if you find a meditation center, if they have given enough architectural emphasis on walking meditation, that indicate they are really working people. Others are just confining their activities to the signboard, no long run, only by sitting meditation. So therefore, if you wish to have a durable, a long run establishment of the mindfulness, you have to do it in an alternative way, sitting and walking. But before finishing my introduction, I would like to say, not only sitting and walking, you have to be seriously concerned about the extensive method of establishing the mindfulness. That means how to be mindful or diligent in your day-to-day activities. Under the retreat situation, within these premises and within our timetable, away from walking and sitting, there are a lot of other activities. So these are rather a very extensive way you can set the mindfulness that is very thin, not thick and deep like in sitting, but you must try your best to keep the mindfulness in the day-to-day activities. It is very easy to get some hints from the walking meditation towards the day-to-day activities than in sitting meditation. The kind of mindfulness and the kind of concentration you gain in sitting will be completely disturbed by opening your eyes. But the kind of the concentration and the mindfulness you are gaining in walking is more durable. The Buddha says, the Chankamadikato samadhi chirattitiko hoti. He says, whatever the concentration you are going to gain in walking, it is durable. So therefore, because we are gaining with the open eyes and the sounds, so in the day-to-day activities also, when and where you do your activities by yourself without socialization, these are the good points, good starting point for you to be mindful in the day-to-day activities. So therefore, reduce as much as possible socialization, talking, and other kind of thing, specifically in this retreat. Otherwise, not only that you are distracted, you are disturbing others also. And I also have to shout. I also will get disturbed. I don't like it. That is what I am telling in the day-to-day activities, keep unto yourself, and that is why the instructions and the other things are important. If there are any kind of thing, go to the particular person and ask. Don't ask each and everyone, then it is going chaotic. And to go in the more constructive way, whenever you perform any task within yourself, and if you feel the situation under your control and you can do as you like, if you wish to introduce mindfulness, do that particular task little in a slow manner. Then it will be a reminder to be self-awareness. And then select that kind of task and make a determination, I will do the task as well as establish mindfulness. And while you are performing in the slow manner, specifically on the retreat situation, the most important thing is listening to your own sounds. Whatever the task you are performing, listen to yourself. When and where you listen to yourself, you will understand it indicates how much mindful you are. If you are in a hectic running situation, a lot of rattling noises coming. and more awareness happens, the mindfulness happens, the diligence happens, your activities will be smoother and smoother. And then you are not only reducing the amount of sound, noises you are emitting, and mind also become very ready to accept the silence and this balanced mind and the solitude and the calmness. So therefore, listening to other sounds and that you can bring when you go back home too. Whenever you are performing a task which is within your control, listen to your own sounds, but don't specifically try to be silent, but just listen. By listening, slowly it comes to the balance, the equilibrium. And there you feel relaxed. Whenever you do it in the tensed manner, there are a lot of noises happen. So therefore it's a very good indicator. And not only that, if you develop that habit, from the far distance you can understand the other person, if someone is available in the vicinity, who is concerned about mindfulness. This is an indicator, amidst of all the troubles and all the multitasking, there are some other people in your office or in your working place or at home, they are somewhat mindful and their character is they are fairly silent. Or they are concerned about the sounds. So this is how we are going to do in the extensive method of mindfulness. And they are the Buddha, out of his compassion, he says when you go forward, come back. Or when you are stretching the arm and bending the arm. Looking sideways and looking forward. And sitting, standing, lying down, each and every place he has specifically mentioned these are the points that you can place tags and try to be mindful, including the first and the second job in the toilets. So much he has detailed. So therefore, at the beginning, the beginner, the meditator come and ask, where can I be mindful and what is the way to be mindful and what are the techniques like? But slowly when you develop the intensive, semi-intensive, the extensive, you will ask the question, where are the point I cannot be mindful? You will slowly spreading into all the busy and all the fearful or uncertain, every point. When the mastery or skillfulness develops, you try your best as a challenge as well to be mindful. So that is how, starting from most conducive place, most prominent place, slowly, ultimately, you are learning the art of becoming mindful, and the question will arise, will that single mindfulness will lead to all the benefits? Of course, single mindfulness will not. But when and where the mindfulness develops, you are going to develop better chances, more and more opportunities. So when and where these better chances happen, you must be ready to improve it, develop the efficiency. So the other conditions, other mental factors like the faith, the energy, the concentration and the wisdom, you find easy at your fingertips. Slowly, they come and combine in such a way, ultimately the diversification or multitasking will be a hobby rather than the distraction, or an exercise rather than regimentation. So then when they go there, as I mentioned, the most prominent landmark, more prominent feature is you are bound to meet more and more mindful people. That means whenever the unmindful, negligent people comes, you try your best to protect your mindfulness against these kind of distractions. And whenever mindful people or diligent people happen, you try to make the association with, not only that you are trying, the good vibration themselves become attractive. That is the best sign to say whether you are progressing or not. So therefore, unless otherwise you be a diligent person, you cannot see another diligent person. And whenever you see you are diligent as well as you are bound to see the diligent, it is not single one and one together come to two. It has a huge multiplier effect. And you see you are not lost. You see you has a huge opening, and 1001 ways and means comes. So therefore, single mindfulness will not give the complete A to Z coverage, but it will give the more and more opportunities, and your theory knowledge, your deductive knowledge, and the practical knowledge slowly developing. If you keep this rule of thumb to facilitate mindfulness, one single thing I can assure, there won't be any complications in the meditation. Instead of this mindfulness, if you are going to worry about the other things, the result-oriented way, and extrasensory perceptions, and this and that, is asking for trouble. Not that they are not related to the spiritual life. They are related. When the time comes, they will come. So your single task is to be develop the beginner's mind, try to be mindful, and when the time happens, the mindfulness will lead and open the doors and windows, and the multiplication or diversification will happen. So therefore, at the beginning, it can be defined, mindfulness is rather mind your own business. Don't try to do multitasking and kind of thing. Reduce to yourself and try your best, and few days it will be appear like little bewildered and undocked and kind of thing. But whenever it come into the conducive situation, it will catch the momentum. So that's all I thought of sharing within this evening. So if any questions regarding these things that I have mentioned, I am welcoming you to come out and raise it for the clarification. If it is not so, alternative days we are going to have question and answer session, and tomorrow will be 8 o'clock to 10. We have question and answers. You may please raise question either in written form or personally raising while the session is happening. Or otherwise, we are going to have other days for the personal interviews. That means day after tomorrow, alternatively. And whatever I feel suitable, I will try to add into the Dhamma talk or the discourses from 2 to 3 o'clock. So these are the ways we are going to communicate formally or informally. So any question happens, I am humbly or compassionately asking, please raise. And if it is relevant to our endeavors of meditation, definitely we have to take time and continue. And with that remark, I would like to sum up the talks. And if you have any question or any clarification, please come out with. Okay, if there are no...
Are there any major points to pay attention to while eating or doing yoga duties?
duties?
Are there any major points of mindfulness to attend to while eating or doing yoga duties?
Basically, for the beginners, there are some complicating places, very difficult to keep the mindfulness, specifically at the dinner table, because our minds are very unruly, and at the beginning very difficult to restrain your mind or restrain your faculties. But Even though it is difficult at the beginning, you must always try to keep, because specifically in the Mahasi system, they say it's in the bathing place, the dining hall. Sometimes if you are going to do a common vandana or pay respect to the Buddha, that kind of places you have to be really be careful or be mindful. And yogic duties also, it appear like regimentation and task force, and therefore at the beginning you may find it is not so easy, but that does not don't make it an excuse. Few days time, once you become familiar to this timetable and the place, slowly you have to be mindful. So that does not indicate that you are giving a license to talk in the dining table or be hectic in the performing task, but be compassionate, be understanding to yourself. And that's why I told that it takes at least 3 days for you to come into this harmony and the balance, equilibrium. So don't rush directly. Slowly let it calm down, and you may find easy to be mindful even in such a task in few days' time. So anything more than that you have to, any other things to emphasize, Venerable?
Yeah, thoughts, thinking, because thinking is not external.
Yeah, that unless otherwise you get a object, that means in sitting, in breath and out breath, or abdominal movement, in walking, left and the right, in the day-to-day activities, the intention, the main task you do. Unless otherwise you are sure, you know the priority, mind is always wandering. So more and more you focus in sitting to the in-breath and out-breath, in walking the right and leg, left, and in the day-to-day task or any other yogic task, if you focus the attention to the intentional work you do, that means mind will be wandering off. So therefore, be sure what is the object of meditation, or the main object that you must fix the attention. That is the way you can restrain the mind slowly. So in the day-to-day activities, that's the most weak point and very loose, because there is no continuous one single object. Objects are changing due to the intention we are doing. So that is the place difficult to be mindful, but that is the only thing when you go home you can bring with you all. Sitting and walking, you won't get so much of time at household situation. So if you can develop kind of an art, how to be mindful in the day-to-day activity, that means how to be mindful of the intentional thing you do, that will be something you can bring home. Is Ramani available? Anything you have to mention on this in this? Uh-huh. So the cottage duties means that is not a day-to-day one, or? Yeah.
Seeing that the bench tops are clean, that the rooms are swept, that
Yeah.
the drawer is tidy, there's enough tea and coffee. Each one has a different task, so if everybody does a task, and every cottage has to have a cottage manager,
Yeah.
who just oversees. If people can put their names down starting from tomorrow, it makes my job much easier.
That means they are volunteering for a particular task. So that means, yeah, and that means that that each cottage manager also can take responsibility about mediating with you and fulfill their volunteering per task. And that is common even in Nissarana. the male parts, they are often neglected. Because the female side, we have the dormitories and kind of thing. Some or the other, it is being updated and clean. But when you go to the males, I don't know if it is cultural or any other any feature. So therefore, we have to give a good role model. Because this retreat, the Perth, I find one day it happened in the Candlebark in the Melbourne also, fairly good proportion of males. Often it happens the males are 10 to 15%, all the balance are females. So under that situation, Ramani may find easier. But when the male proportion going up, I mean, it must not make a point to send the situation mad. So therefore, good that you raise it. And therefore, each cottage manager, please take little time and to mediate the situation so that each one is performing it. So I don't know who is the cottage manager in my place. Yeah, so therefore that I can't keep the relationship with Ramani, so if someone can take it up and let me know what I have to do. Because I am a worst case. Yeah, even at the Nissarana Vanaya or even as a lay person, my desk is never allowed to keep a place for keep the lamp. It is so messy. So luckily at home we have 6 of the sisters. So they are cleaning and washing and all the kind of thing. So daily we are making problems. So I am not in a better off situation to tell you all because I am not a good example. But the remarkable thing I have seen, I think this is the first time I am coming here. Whole building complex is so fresh. It's well maintained. And there is no other similar thing, and not well done as well as maintained. So therefore, yesterday I paid respect to Achan Brahm. Then I told on behalf of all the people, I am really, really thankful because you allow us to do it. Then he told, Venerable, you are welcome. Anytime you can come and use it. So I was so happy, it's a generosity. And we must try our best to keep the situation as clean as possible, as hygienic as possible, to the standard. Otherwise, once it's gone down, very difficult to bring up to the standard. And as far as the timetable and all the schedules are already now displayed, so, yeah. Yeah. And we had a kind of communication problem regarding these interviews and Dhamma talks. And what we did for the last retreat is alternative days, Dhamma talks and question and answer and the interviews. For the second time I'm mentioning, tomorrow is the first day, and we have the Dhamma talk at 2 to 3, and question and answer session from 8 to 10. Day after, the Dhamma talk in the same time, and the interviews start from the 6 o'clock onward. For each day, we are going to have 15 to 20 people. And it will take about sometimes 3 to 4 hours. It will happen in the kuti, I don't know the room number where I am living, the rightmost place in the upper district. and each person may entertain 7 minutes average for interviews, and it is happening in alternative days. But if you have any kind of general questions, don't take time in the interviews, you can put into the question and answer session. Take it time for your individual private thing for the interview, so that it will be easier. And give the priority for this circumcision for the newcomers, because those who have continued had at least 1 or 2 interviews. So very first day, for example, day after tomorrow, give the priority for those who wish to have interview for the first time, for the newcomers, and then we can go for alternative days. So we have taken almost 1.5 hours. If there are no other kind of things to be clarified or discussed, we will sum up the day's work, and each day, not each day, on the question and answer session days, we are going to share the merit with all the seen and unseen beings and our relatives, and reminding our objectives. With that idea, we are going to chant stanzas specifically according to the Sri Lankan tradition. So those who wish may join into that, other may attentively listen to it. The idea behind is to share the merit with all the seen and unseen beings, and they share the merit with the departed and living relatives, and to remind our objectives and straightening of our objectives. With that idea, we are now going to recite Ettavata Jammehi, and that is the today's the end of the today's program. Ettavata Jammehi Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Numodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya. Ettavata Jammehi Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Bhuta Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya. Ettavata Jammehi Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Satta Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti. Akasattha ca Bhummattha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkantu Sasanang. Akasattha ca Bhummattha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkantu Desanang. Akasattha ca Bhummattha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakkantu Mang Parang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātiyo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātiyo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukhitā hontu ñātiyo. Imina puñña kammena māmi bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina puñña kammena māmi bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina puñña kammena māmi bāla samāgamo satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Supat vittva sukhiyo. Sadhu sadhu anumodami. Sadhu anumoditabbang. Kamami kamitabang sukhiyantu. Abhivadana silis niccang vaddha pacayino cattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevaca ato nibbana sampatti iminati samijjatu.